All right, so I'm here with Coach Mike Donnelly. Coach, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
All right, so why don't you introduce yourself for those that haven't seen you before or don't know much about you? Just kind of introduce yourself.
I'm Mike Donnelly. I'm originally from Connecticut. I moved down here 5 years ago to come work at Florida Southern, entering my sixth year as the head basketball coach at Florida Southern College. I'm actually entering my 18th year overall as a Division II head coach. I'm getting old. The experience has taught me a lot over the years, and looking forward to this challenging but exciting upcoming season.
Right. So before we get to this year, Coach, I want to kind of just obviously start with how things ended last year. I was a part of that team as a manager, so I was there firsthand to see just how phenomenal of a year I think we had. Like from top to bottom, just all of it was going so well. And then we got the unfortunate news in March that tournament was canceled, therefore our season was canceled. So you've had some time to reflect at this point. So talk to me. Well, first of all, tell me about in that moment what your emotions were like. Just hearing the news that you want to get to coach the guys through the tournament and then possibly into the Elite Eight. Talk to me about what your emotions were like at that moment, and then what was going through your mind.
Yeah, Mike, it happened so quickly, and you were with us day in and day out, and to get notification that our season was abruptly over didn't sink in initially. It was just a matter of trying to get that information to our team as quickly as possible, and that was the big thing. After we won the Sunshine State tournament on that Sunday, heading into that week of preparation for the NCAA tournament, every hour it seemed the news got worse and worse. So we kind of had an idea that maybe, we were going to have to cancel the tournament. But when it actually happened on that Thursday, so 2 days prior to the beginning of the start of the NCAA tournament, I think I was in shock. I think that's the best way to kind of explain it. And my objective was just to kind of relay the information to our guys as quickly as possible. So it didn't really sink in. Having to tell the team, and you were in that locker room, was something that you don't prepare for. I don't care how many years of experience you have. There's just no experience that prepares you for telling a group of guys who have worked 7 months to get to a goal of hosting the regional and being one of the best teams in the NCAA tournament that their season was now over and careers are over, right? I mean, we had four seniors that their college basketball careers
Yeah.
had come to an abrupt end. And then after we got through that period, the campus evacuated, and that was mid-March. And then when I was quarantined here at my house, that's when all reality set in. That it was so unfortunate that we were unable to, try to, make a run in the NCAA tournament. You build to the point where you think you're good enough, deep enough, talented enough, where you can make a run at the national championship. And I thought we had a group that could. And honestly, 7 or 8 months later, Mike, that's never gonna go completely leave myself, or I'm sure yourself or the other guys that experienced last season. We'll have to keep that feeling with us of the unknown, the question mark forever. So, I think the best way I can kind of explain it, I've been talking to the guys for this year, is we got to use that as a motivating factor moving forward. We can't dwell on it. We can't use it as an excuse to feel sorry for ourselves. We just have to now try to grind, take advantage of every opportunity every day we have to get ready for this upcoming year.
Yeah, like just because like that was the first time for me that I was a part of like a team experience, even I wasn't playing, like just being in that locker room every day, being at practice every day, just seeing like how hard those like 14 guys worked just to like get to that point. It was really hard for me. And I felt for Brad, Jack, Jair, JB, like all those guys, because like I thought we had a good chance too. I thought we were at least going to make it to Atlanta for the Elite Eight, but not to be. So, Coach, tell me about. So, let's talk about COVID real quick. We're in October now. We don't. This is the latter half of the year, almost 7 months to the day since we got sent home for the evacuation. So, talk to me about for you personally what life has been like, and then compare it to, if you can, to how things were before in terms of like how things are different. Obviously, we have masks, socially distancing, but talk to me about in general how life has been different for you from then and now.
It's still surreal to me. It's hard to believe that 7 months, like you just made that point, 7 months almost to the day that we're still dealing with COVID. And, obviously COVID now, middle of October, is a lot worse than it was back in March when when our season was canceled. So it's tiring. I think everybody has COVID fatigue, right? I mean, it is been an exhausting 7 months. And everyone is kind of dealing with it the best they can. Me personally, I've just been trying to not think about myself. I think that's the best way I can kind of describe it. And it's been hard, right? I mean, I'm 45 years old and I've been coaching a long time. So this is obviously my profession. This is how I feed my family. And the more success you have in this profession, the better off you're going to be. So I've really tried really hard not to think about that and try to think about our guys, our program. And as the leader of the program, I think that's the best approach. So I've really been spending a lot of time thinking about that from a professional standpoint. And then from a personal standpoint, I've taken that same thought process and try to put my family in front of me. My two daughters have been going through a lot. My wife has. So, I guess that's the best way I can kind of describe it, how I've been trying to deal with it, and always trying to think what's best for my family and then what's best for our basketball program. I think, I've been telling our guys a lot, and you're on these group chats that we have, that someone's going to take advantage of this opportunity. Player, some person, some team is going to take advantage. And I keep saying to our guys, why not us? And that's how we're trying to spin it, right? Trying to really take advantage of this unique experience somehow, some way, and having that positive mindset instead of trying to think, feeling sorry for ourselves. That's really kind of been my approach throughout this whole pandemic.
So, Coach, like I mentioned before, you had time to reflect. So when you look back on the totality of last year, just like from the first meeting we had in August last year to when we've had to end our season, I asked you this during that that weekend we were at Nova, going on the road there, about having fun coaching. I mean, obviously, you say that this is a job for you, as a profession, but I think like we always try to get the most out of our profession, whatever that may be. So talk to me about, what did you enjoy most from a coaching standpoint? Like, did you think that was the most fun you had coaching in your 17, 18 years? Like, talk to me about that.
Yeah, I'd put last year right up to the year we had where we went to Elite Eight when we were at Southern Connecticut. That was 2013, 2014. And the years were very similar. It was the most fun I've ever had coaching. Winning will do that, obviously. But it's how we went about our day-to-day business. Both those teams back at Southern Connecticut and last year's team were similar in regards to, it was a player-led team, in my opinion. Like, we had fantastic senior leadership. We had a group that had great chemistry, both on and off the floor. I didn't have to worry about guys, getting it done in the classroom. I didn't have to worry about getting a phone call at night that, we had guys that weren't doing the right things, on or off campus. There were no distractions. I guess that's the best way to put it. And, of course, I have to demand a lot and I have to push guys throughout the year, and we're going to have our highs and lows when it comes to that. But I think for the most part, it was just, I was kind of matter of fact, this is what we need to do. There was 100% buy-in. So there was no pulling teeth trying to get guys to trust and believe what we were doing. I think we're all on the same page. And when you can have those types of factors, it becomes really fun. And then, of course, when you win, and the games that we won last year, I mean, how exciting were those, those games? I mean, we won in all different types of ways. When you blow out teams, it's fun. When you come from behind, it's a lot of fun. When you win nail biters, it's a lot of fun. So I think that's what I'll take from last year's team. And without, it goes back to what I said earlier, without having that leadership without having the players buy in and having it being a player-led team, then it's not as fun. You know, and it's I give a lot of credit to those guys who were in that locker room last year. They did a phenomenal job.
So I asked all the guys this when I interviewed them about the hunger level that is around the team, like the atmosphere. And, you know, I think it was pretty obvious that unanimously they all said that they were hungry for even the new guys coming in to help contribute to that success. So I want to get your perspective as the coach. Like, do you sense that hunger level from the players? And then do you have like a hunger level of your own to like coach the guys to have a third straight conference championship, to actually have a chance to host the region this time? Like, talk to me about that.
No, that's a great question. And I've experienced that on two different levels. So the year we went to Elite Eight at Southern Connecticut, 2013, 2014, we only graduated one player. Now, granted, that one player was an All-American, and that was Coach Greg Langston, who's now an assistant with us. But we returned 12 guys from that year's team. 2014, 2015, in the preseason, we were ranked number 2 in the country. There were high expectations, but as soon as we brought that team back, it was a different vibe. There wasn't the same edge. It seemed like guys were, you know, still a little bit, I wouldn't say cocky, that's not the right word, but still tired from going through the year that we just had. And now they have even higher expectations. And I thought that we battled that all year, that having that certain edge. And it, you know, we would have meetings about it. I'd say to the guys, you know, it almost seems like we don't want to fully commit to working as hard as we know we have to work. And that's a real struggle, you know, to get to the level that, you know, we were last year and back at Southern Connecticut, that's a hard level to get it. And it's even harder to sustain. And when I was thinking about a theme for this upcoming year, our very first team meeting, you were on that Zoom. I said to the guys, you know, in a crazy way, COVID-19 could actually, it was the worst possible thing for last year's team. It could be the best possible thing for this year's team, because I centered that theme around our motivation. And, you know, we didn't get a chance to experience the NCAA tournament. We didn't get a chance to experience hosting in front of our fans. We didn't get a chance to make a run at the Elite Eight. So obviously we're all pretty empty with that feeling. And coming into this year, you know, that's really what we tried to stress. But the guys have it. You know, I haven't brought it up since, to be honest with you, Mike. You know, and that's going back almost 6-7 weeks from that first team meeting we had. We haven't talked about staying motivated, staying hungry, because I've seen that with our guys in our workouts. And I feel it in myself every day. You know, there's a real strong hunger and motivation from top on down to guys, you know, taking advantage of every day, because we know it can be taken away from us, and getting most out of every day to reach that next level. Because as great of a year as we had last year, we didn't reach the level that we all know we were capable of getting at, and that's going to be the goal this year.
So let me talk about this year's team. I think it's very fair to say that it's not going to be a traditional season in any way, shape, or form. So with that being the case, we obviously don't have the traditional, you know, preseason pickup games with the guys, and then, you know, like 5-on-5 stuff. So talk to me about what it's been like so far. You mentioned that like 6-7 weeks in, you know, you guys have had the 2-week suspension with athletics. So talk to me about so far what it's been like having to adjust, you know, from a coaching standpoint, like saying like, guys, we have to do this in face. We can't just go all out like 5-on-5 stuff. So talk to me about what that's been like.
That's been a huge challenge, because, you know, every coach is different. Every coach has their ways of doing things. And I think the thing that we rely a lot on from a coaching standpoint and a program standpoint is playing. You know, we learned so much just by watching our guys in the 6 weeks of preseason playing competitively in pickup. And, you know, I evaluate, you know, put a lot of emphasis on those pickup games. And like you said, we're still in a non-contact phase with the resocialization of sport. And that's been a challenge. The best thing that I can say that we've tried to do is simulate our drill work and our individual workouts to try to simulate of how we're going to train and practice and play. So they're 80 minutes long, our workouts. They've been very fast, focusing on conditioning with the ball. and it's been up tempo. And the big thing for us is trying to see who can execute, who has the stamina, and who has the mental wherewithal to get through those workouts, because those are three important factors with how we play. And that's really kind of where we are right now. And I'm not trying to get too far ahead of myself from a coaching standpoint and worrying about, oh, geez, it's already middle of October. We haven't done this or we haven't done that yet. We're behind other programs. I'm trying to have blinders on and tunnel vision, just focus on where we are day to day and where our restrictions are, so to speak, and make the most of those. Make the most of those workouts that we have had. But it has been a huge challenge. It has been a huge challenge. And, I know a lot of other teams do preseason workouts differently, and maybe their challenges aren't as big as ours, but that's kind of how we do things.
Yeah.
We'll have time. That's what I keep telling myself. Once when we're allowed to go live, we will have time to watch our guys play and get a good feel of the chemistry and things like that. That's going to be so important for us.
So you kind of just touched on it with the challenges. Obviously, with this certain situation taking place, with not having the ability to go full speed right off the bat and stuff like that, with COVID especially being like prevalent still, especially like because we don't know necessarily like what to expect, like how someone would contract it and all that stuff. So you have to wear masks constantly. You have to just be smart and all that stuff. Unfortunately, not everyone abides by that, and that was like especially true with the shutdown you guys just had over there. So when things are out of your control, especially in a sense like it's so early on in the preseason, when things like that are out of your control, like especially like other athletic teams don't take this protocols as seriously as men's basketball has been taking it. Talk to me about the frustration that comes from that in terms of just like not being able to control like what other guys are doing or what other teams are doing, like how they're not taking it seriously. You know what I'm trying to say? Like what's the frustration with that?
It's very frustrating. We've talked a lot about that with our guys to try to keep them level-headed, because I have been concerned if our guys get too discouraged or too frustrated, they're going to lose that hunger and kind of say, well, what's the point? And then fall into that trap of not following protocols and not taking the precautions that we need to take in order for us to have a season. But honestly, I've said, and this is no knock on any of the other programs here, but we have a lot at stake. And I don't know if every other athlete or every other program has as much at stake as we do. And that's just the reality of it. And I've just tried to impress that upon our guys and get them to understand that. And I think collectively they do. And it's helped us try to stay grounded and not not get angry, not get discouraged and those types of things. But it is a challenge, and it's very, very heightened here on campus in terms of wearing your masks and following protocols. It's very strict. Of course, our guys sometimes don't understand the magnitude of it. And I've just tried to be very honest and keeping it real with our guys and explain to them, look, if we're not doing our part, we're not wearing our mask, if we're not socially distancing, if we're not abiding by the protocols that are in place, then we get sent home. And if we're sent home, why should coaches be employed by the university? Not to get too deep here, but that's the reality of it. And just try to get them to understand that's why everyone is so strict, because we're trying as a whole, as a university, we're trying to keep everyone on campus, and we're trying to get through till Thanksgiving, and we're almost there. We're getting closer, just to make sure that we have a full campus and then have a full campus come January, because it is, I think, the guys need to understand it is much bigger than actually our basketball season, right? I mean, there's a lot of factors that come into play. And just that's why I'm really trying to tell them. I'm trying to get them to see the big picture of everything.
So you more than anyone have had the opportunity to see all the guys, in some capacity, right? You recruited them when they were not with the team last year, and then the guys coming back, you obviously are well aware of how they function to the team. So with everything, obviously, no 5-on-5 stuff yet. So with individual workouts and stuff like that, what have been your first impressions of how the new guys have acclimated to the program in terms of like on-court stuff, off-court stuff, and then How do you think, that's going to progress as things go along?
Right. So the off court, I think the off court stuff has been our biggest challenge because, as you know, we do try to do a lot of things and connect off court. I mean, for instance, our team hasn't even been to my house yet. We haven't had any dinner functions yet. Like we haven't, I know last year we went to the escape room for a team activity, team bonding thing. We haven't done any of that. Um, and I know our older guys, our returners have tried to get to know the new guys as best as possible, but you got to be careful because, of the rules that are in place on campus. So that has without question been our biggest challenge, but the personality and the makeup of our 5 new guys blend in with our returners. I mean, all of our returners um, have have said that, and I really try to go through all of our guys to try to get a feel of what their thoughts on of the new guys in terms of their personality and how they're going to fit in from that standpoint. So our new guys, I think they do fit from that regard. Um, I think our transfers just naturally are ahead of the freshmen. I mean, we have 3 freshmen and 2 transfers because this is the first go around for the freshmen. Right. We have 2 true freshmen, and when you have an older team like we do, including 3 graduate transfers, I mean, that's hard for an 18-year-old freshman to kind of figure things out right away. Our other freshman that we have, who's a post-grad, he's a year older. That's Wes Bonjanori from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. From a workout standpoint, he's done a really good job because, again, he's a year older and he has a year of high basketball under his belt coming from Hargrave Military Academy. We're high on our transfers. The 2 transfers fit in terms of need. As you know, we lost a lot from last year's team, but bringing in Max Curran, who's a 5th-year senior from a very competitive Division I program in UMBC, and Baba Ajike, who is a 3-year. He's going to be a 3-year transfer for us, and he had a lot of success last year as a freshman at Cal PA, Division II program. I think those guys are going to have an immediate impact, and they have blended. They're going to blend in very well with our returners. But I'm happy with our new guys. I really am. And the new guys all seem to, what's the right word? They all seem to have a lot of regard and respect for not only our players, but our program. And that's important because I see them wanting to be a major part of our success.
So hopefully, I think as a coach, you do this, like you have a vision of what you want the team to be like at its best, right? Like we had that last year. I think we were playing at our best last year when things got canceled. So talk to me about, obviously very early on, but what your vision for the team is in terms of like when we're clicking at our best, like what does that look like? And then maybe like compared to last year, like if that's similar or different in any way.
Yeah, another good question, Mike. I think it's going to be very hard to be better than we were offensively this year compared to last year. I mean, last year, you could stack up all the numbers from the points per game to field goal percentage to assist to turnover ratio. I mean, the only thing we didn't do at a high level was really shoot the ball well from the free throw line. I would have liked to have been a little bit better from an efficiency standpoint, but we were without question one of the best offensive teams in the country, and we're losing a guy who averaged almost 23 points a game for us. We're losing 2 other seniors who averaged double figures for us. So with the way we play, I'm always concerned about scoring. I'm always concerned about how we're going to click offensively, but there's more that goes into it because you need confident guys. You need guys who are willing to take big shots. You need guys who are poised, composed, smart with the basketball in their hands. And we are going to have new guys in those key roles. I think some of the new guys will have a role in that regard, and then the returners, their roles will be elevated. That's how it works. And you don't know how it's all going to work until you start seeing it. But with that being said, I think we have an opportunity to be better defensively. I thought we were pretty good last year defensively, but I think we can be an elite defensive team this year because of our length, size, and athleticism. And I think potentially we could be a little bit deeper than we were last year. And we're definitely deeper with size. Um, it's just a matter of like, what type of grind is this team going to have? If we have that grind, if we have that hunger, if we're motivated to guard and rebound, again, I think we could be one of the better teams in the country. We led the country in blocks last year. I think we averaged just over 6 per game. Honestly, Mike, that could be around 8
Yeah.
if we get guys to really buy into guarding their rear ends off every possession with the size and athleticism that we have. I'm really excited to see how we can evolve defensively because, even though it's going to be hard to replicate what we did offensively last year, I do think on the other side of the ball, we have a chance to be much better.
So one of the things I think that's definitely like the guys are aware of is the fact that I think expectations are different. I mean, I think that's kind of hard to like believe, but I think because last year going into last year, like I don't think many people on the outside would peg us as like national contenders for championship, right? Like internally we believe that way, but like not on the outside. So, but I think this year the outside does have the expectation that we're going to be among the best because we finished like fifth last year in the country. So as a coach, like especially with this uncertainty, like I mean, you talked about like guys not needing to be told to stay hungry, but with the expectations what they are, and I think with the expectations from the outside and inside that we have to be like at our best. Like the goal is to be national champions, to host the region again, and stuff like that. Is there a way that you coach, like knowing that the expectations are different? You understand my question? Like,
Yeah, I think it's important to kind of talk about those expectations, reflect on those expectations, and be honest about those expectations early on, and then leave it and not dwell on it. And these guys don't need me talking about those expectations every day. And the reason why I say that is because that builds pressure. And we can't play at the level that we're capable of playing if we're under any type of stress or pressure. And that's something now that I've had, quite a bit of experience coaching, that I think that I'm more prepared to look out for as years in the past. And that's something that I'm going to monitor every single day. It doesn't matter if we're in the weight room, if we're working out, or if we're playing a pickup game or a practice. I'm going to monitor how I think we're handling those expectations, because you can't be at your best if you're not comfortable. And if you're under pressure, stress, how can you be comfortable and play loose and have fun at the same time? So I think it's a fine line. It's definitely a fine line. In a perfect world, players hold each other accountable. In a perfect world, there's that underlying, without you having to say underlying, like, expectation, like, hey, this is where we're at, and we all have to hold each other accountable. And I'm excited to see if that will happen with our team. I have a strong feeling it will, and I think it has already happened. But the one thing I don't want to have happen is think that guys have to do something or be something that they're not, and get guys to understand that. And that will be a challenge, I think, at times. I think any successful program with dealing with high expectations goes through those same type of things. But we don't have to be perfect. It's all still about the little things. When you were on that group text, I just sent something out. It's how we train that matters. If we want to be the best, we got to train like the best. And it's really that simple. It's not about making shots. It's not about averaging 25 points a game if you're an individual. It's about your day-to-day approach, and just getting guys to understand that, and taking it, that lightly, honestly, and not putting too much pressure and stress on themselves.
so I actually asked some of the, like, I guess I want to call them veterans. I asked EJ, Dre, Kai, Pierce. So they're kind of considered like the longer tenured players because Schneer's the only one from your original class that's still on the team. So what I asked them was if they felt not an obligation, but if they would consider themselves leaders or like take on a leadership role in some fashion on the team this year. And everyone except for Kai said that they believe like that's something that they can do. So as a coach, like, I don't think you need to preach leadership, but do you like seeing like guys like take it upon themselves to like want to be leaders on a team to help like keep everyone accountable and then to keep everyone like in the right frame of mind going into the season? Is that something you like see as a coach?
Absolutely, man. I love to have different voices speak up. So we will get to the point where we're going to announce captains. We haven't done that yet, and that's because we're still watching and evaluating, and we want to make the right decision. But like, we got to be a team that has multiple voices. Doesn't matter if you're quote unquote a captain or not. And that was one of the things that we did with the workout groups. So we're in phase 1 with our workouts, and we have 5 groups of 3, and we have a combination of new guys and returners in those groups. And I purposely put those groups together to see who's going to kind of step up and have a voice. And it's been great to see Jake Schneer and DeAndre Campbell, Pierce. Kai's been working his tail off. So Kai does it more by example. EJ's a very vocal guy. Those just to name a few. Jalen Hinton, who was pretty quiet last year and led by example. He's been huge in that regard. Like, he's been more vocal and more adamant with, kind of speaking up and purposeful with speaking up. So we can't do it if it doesn't come from within. Success has to come from within. And it's good to see it, because I've been talking about that since these guys have been in the program. And now it's a pecking order, right? Now it's their turn. And it's good to see those guys start stepping up and realizing it. And I always say to the guys, like, I can't make you something that you're not. You have to do it your way. You got to figure out what's the most comfortable way you want to lead and have a voice. And it's good to see guys starting to do that. It's needed if we're going to get to where we want to go.
I've always actually wondered this myself, so I thought I would ask you this on the interview today. As a coach, I think one of the main jobs, like how you're successful, is if you get the most out of the roster you have, right? I think like the best coaches, even in professional basketball, college basketball, whatever level you're at, you don't try to make a team something that it's not. You play to their strengths, even in any sport, really. So as a coach, just in general, not necessarily with this team, if you want to touch this, if you can, but as a coach, what do you think goes into maximizing a team's potential? Like, is it like coaching them a certain way? Is it just, like X's and O's? Is it just like knowing like what lines to use when? Like, what do you think goes into like maximizing a team's potential?
I think, first of all, it's a game plan. And for me personally, that game plan, I can have a million thoughts written down, which I do every off season. I write a lot about terms of potential strengths and weaknesses and areas of concern. But until I see the guys in action, it's hard to really come up and formulate a real game plan. And when I watch our guys, and I've done it a little bit with the workouts, you try to write down what you feel like I just said, like what are your strengths of the team, potential strengths, potential weaknesses, areas of concern, and you try to tweak that along the way to build up more strengths and eliminate some of those weaknesses and answer some of those questions about concerns. And sometimes when you have to eliminate those weaknesses and when you eliminate those questions of concern, you have to, disguise some things, and hide some things. So that's part of it. I think getting the most out of your team, and some of that is strategy. Some of that is X and O's. And a lot of that is just, communicating with the guys. Some of it is, just making sure that you're constantly in tune with each player and kind of seeing where they're at mentally from a confidence standpoint. And I think you get the best out of your player, best out of your team when there's great communication and there is confidence. And when guys are comfortable, because now when you jump on a player, he's not getting defensive. He's actually listening and he's saying, okay, wait a minute, coach is coming from a good place. He's sincere. He's only trying to help me type thing. We don't want players shutting down and taking things personally when we have to jump on guys. And we want to give our guys a lot of freedom. We don't want guys looking over their shoulder. You can't get the best out of a player, the most out of a player if they're worried about making mistakes. That's just – sometimes it's hard to do that from a coaching standpoint, but I think that's the best way how you can get the most out of your player and team by, kind of really focusing on those areas.
One of the things that I've taken away from the NBA Finals in particular is Eric Spoelstra talks about the impact that Jimmy Butler has had, right? Because the Heat are not the most talented team, right? They're not the most like physical team, but like they play hard, right? And a lot of what Butler does is that he impacts winning. So I just want to know like your perspective on. I think that can be applied to our team too. Like we want guys that are going to impact like winning basketball and do the right things for us on and off the court. So when you hear impact winning, what does that mean to you as a coach? And then like, how do you think like the guys on this team can help do that to like help impact winning this year?
Getting guys to understand it's not about scoring X amount of points, playing X amount of minutes, having the spotlight, having someone write an article on you. That doesn't impact winning. It's all the intangibles, and then just focusing on the little things, the day-to-day things, and, being thrown into the grind, I like to call it. Like Jimmy Butler is the biggest grinder on that team.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a prima donna. He's in the trenches with the guys. And when the other guys see that, especially some of those younger guys, right? Like Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, like that's a great example for them to follow and lead. Like, and I think that's important because Butler does so many things to impact winning, like you said. And getting guys to understand. It was funny. I was recruiting on Wednesday night up in Jacksonville, and a high school coach up there who I respect. I was up there to see one of his guys, and he was saying to me, he's like, I'm trying to get him to understand. No offense to Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum's 6'9". Don't be like Jason Tatum. Jason. Everyone's into training now, right? But be into playing, be into like diving on the floor. Not that Tatum doesn't do that, but he said be like Jimmy Butler. Like he just goes and plays.
Yeah.
Like, and I thought it was awesome to hear that he's telling a high school kid that. And I think there's something to that. You can be great at training, which is irrelevant on winning. You got to play the game. Right. You got to play the game a certain way with an edge, with a purpose in order to impact winning. You could be the best trainer there is, but it has zero impact on winning a basketball game. And Jimmy Butler does that. It's been great to see. It's been refreshing to see, hasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It really has. And I don't know if he's got enough in the tank for tonight's game.
Let's see.
We'll see. But they're going to need every ounce of Jimmy Butler in order to have a shot to win tonight.
I think we do have guys that would impact winning. So, like, obviously, like, I think what EJ does on a consistent basis is like him talking. Like he was like probably our most consistent talker last year, like consistently. And I asked him about it. He said like that's just who he is. That's who he's been since high school, right? I think Schneider is going to be impacting win just by being like that consistent, calm voice in the locker room. So can you guys like touch on that, how that would apply to our guys?
Without question. And I try to recruit from a basketball standpoint and from a personality standpoint. I try to recruit all different types of pieces and try to mold them into one piece. So if you notice with our team, we don't have a lot of the same type of physical basketball players, right? We just don't. Everyone kind of brings a unique strength to the table. And from a personality standpoint, we need all different types of guys. Like if you have 10 EJs, does that work? But I know you definitely need one, and I'm so happy we have EJ, and you probably need someone who's 1A right under EJ. That's extremely important. So Jake Schneider is a fifth-year guy, and honestly, he's like kind of like an assistant coach in a way, because he knows exactly what we're trying to do as a program. He knows my personality. He knows how we handle and do things, and he's going to be able to relay that message to the guys in the locker room. And that's so important, Mike, because, there's 24 hours in a day. We're only with our guys 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And then the other, 22, 21 and a half hours of the day, they're together away from the coaching staff. And there's got to be that message that echoes from the coaching staff into the group. So every one of those guys has an impact on winning. And Jake Schneider doesn't play a ton of minutes, but his impact is invaluable. I'm so glad and grateful that he's back for a fifth year because we're going to need his presence and leadership day to day, which he's already done a great job so far this year.
So you mentioned it a little bit earlier. You were up recruiting a little while ago. Talk to me about how that's different. I mean, obviously, like there's not really like any set games you can go to, and there's no there's no like circuits you can go to and watch stuff like that. So talk to me about like how have you and Mac been recruiting like this period, and then what's obviously different compared to how you usually would go recruit.
The difference is virtual versus live. We weren't able to go out last spring, weren't able to go out this summer. We've been able to go out for the last 4 weeks. But I think part of the change in recruiting now is social media and the prominence of marketing. And some of that is good. A lot of that is bad, because you can fall in love as a coach 2 to 3 minute highlight videos, but doesn't really paint the whole picture of a player. Mm-hmm. Me personally, I have to trust my eyes. I want to feel that player. I want to really watch the ins and outs on everything that player does in a game. It's, for me, very, very critical part of the evaluation process. So I think any coach would prefer a live evaluation compared to the virtual. And I've lost some recruits this year so far because we've refused to take a commitment on seeing a kid virtually. And I understand that kids are in a really tough jam, meaning 2021 kids, because I don't know how many scholarships are going to be available in 2021. So I think they have a lot of sound advice to commit early. But for us, we didn't want to go down that path unless we were 100% sure. And the only way you're 100% sure is watching the kid play live. Having the kid come visit campus, or going off campus, having an opportunity to interact with the kid and their family. That's a huge part of the evaluation process.
So I just wanted to backtrack 1 second to last year. So like one of the things that I took away was just how special a bond a team can have. Like none of the guys were like blood related brothers, but I think like we all felt like we were brothers in the locker room, and like I'm sure like you felt that way too. Like there's the family atmosphere that we had. So that was my takeaway. So I just wanted to know if you took anything away from last season that you think will be like helpful to you coaching this year's team.
We had tremendous leadership last year. We had great veterans. We had a lot of fun, but we also had maturity as a group, and we're going to need that same type of leadership and maturity this year. I think that's really, really important. And I think we also need to have the same type of, kind of looseness about us as well. So like we were loose, but we were also serious as well. And that's what I took from the group. And, you've probably heard me say this, like we do see everything that goes on as much as possible with the program. We do hear things, we evaluate things, but we're very selective on what we talk about. And that selection depends on where I feel like the pulse and vibe of the team. And, last year I was just really, really, we were really blessed, and I was happy to see it be a player-led group. And we really need that again this year. I can't be coming in the locker room every day demanding these guys to play harder. We need to take it more serious. If I'm saying those things, it's gonna somehow, some way come back to bite us, and we're not gonna reach our potential. And so far, I don't think that's been an issue at all, and I don't foresee that being an issue. But that's what we really need to maintain from last year's group.
Oh, more, Coach. So this obviously that our conference said that they're postponing winter events through the end of the year. So January would be the earliest. So we kind of knew that going in that it would be like January starting anything. So once you guys are able to pick back up, can you guys talk to me like what the plan is in terms of like the build up to 5-on-5 live stuff, and then to team practice, like what's going to be the plan in terms of like the phases, and then when you guys ultimately go live?
Yeah, so we are stuck in phases. We will starting tomorrow. We'll go back to phase 1, and we'll be in phase 1 for a week, which is just individual workouts, player to coach, and they can't share equipment, and meaning they can't pass the ball to each other, and there's no contact. Hopefully next Monday we can advance to phase 2, and we'll be in phase 2 probably for 2 weeks. And phase 2 is now we can advance to groups of 5, and we can at least share equipment, so we can share the ball, but we still can't have contact. Fast forward to phase 3, we can have groups up to 10 where we can share equipment and have contact. So that's when we can start playing pickup. So now you're talking, beginning of November. That's kind of where we are from a timetable. And then, if everything goes according to plan as of now, the training staff could tweak some things, but as of right now, if we don't have any more setbacks, we'll start full practice on November 12th. So almost a full month later than usual. But the good thing is we're not starting games until probably the second or third week in January. There's been nothing put in stone yet from the conference office, but the conference office has kind of indicated to our athletic directors that we have to bring everyone back after Christmas. Everyone's got to get tested. It's got to be a little bit of a re-socialization back to sport. And then we need a couple of weeks to prepare for the season. So, that's kind of the game plan as of right now. So as much as I'm maybe panicked that we haven't really been able to do much, we do have more time than usual. And I'm trying to keep that in mind. So we're not rushing through things, and, we're not skipping the conditioning part of things or the skill breakdown that we normally do with our guys. They need those reps that we can't bypass just to try to get to team things. So that's kind of where we are right now. We still have a long road ahead of us. But I think that's kind of, where we stand now. And as we progress, we're just going to keep telling the guys, regular season's one thing, but we're going to be focusing on playing our best basketball come postseason. But we got to get there.
Right.
So that means we got to do our part from a health and safety standpoint, and we got to do our part day to day to put ourselves in position to play our best basketball come, late February and March. And we always talk about that. You always want to play your best basketball late February and March, but this year more than ever, it's going to be more of an urgency to kind of time it where you can peak much later in the year so you can make a run in the postseason.
All right, last one, Coach. So we don't necessarily know when the pandemic will end per se, right? Things are progressing, I think, personally, but we just don't know with how things are going. So I kind of just want to get your perspective on what you think life will be like. And you and I touched upon this a couple months ago. We talked about this briefly, but what do you think life is going to be like in the future? And then, do you think we're heading in the right direction in terms of like having some return to normalcy at some point? Like, do you think we're going in that direction? We're in the right direction with that?
I think we are heading in the right direction, just for the simple fact that all sports at all different levels are trying their best to proceed. And granted, this is unlike any other year that we've had in sport, but everyone seems to be trying to adjust and try to still have a sport experience. So I think we are heading in the right direction. In regards to what things are going to look like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the road, even a year down the road, that's the $1 million question. I think we'll all be forever impacted what we've gone through over the last 7 months with the coronavirus. I think that some of that could help us, right? Just to take precaution and safety. But and I'm sure you're the same way, Mike. Like, over the last 7 months, you go back and you try to think about how it was. And we just took that for granted, right? In terms of just going freely about our day, going to sporting events, concerts, parties, class day to day. Like, you just take that all for granted. And I think that hopefully we can all get back to that point, and we will in some capacity, and then just embrace it and enjoy it. And that's what I'm really looking forward to, getting back to those days where we weren't worried about wearing a mask or, social distancing or anything like that. So I don't know. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Where do you think we're going to be?
I Me personally, like I'm kind of with you. Like I asked a question a bunch of times to all the guys I talked to. So for the most part, they think that like there will be some like going forward, like this, it won't ever be like exactly the same way. Like we're not going to just be like carefree, like going this and there. Me personally, I think like I believe we're gonna have a vaccine at some point. Like my hope is before January hits, but I just don't know. Like we wanted to be safe first of all. And I also think that we want to have normalcy, but we can't just be like so carefree about what it would look like, So I do think we're gonna have some sort of return to normal in a sense, but I don't think it's gonna look exactly the same as much as I would love it to be like before. I just think the reality is like like this is it's my first pandemic in my life. I'm sure it's your life too. You've been a part of so like I've never been in a pandemic before, and I hope I don't be one. We don't have one again, hopefully. But it's kind of hard to just to wipe away the past 7 months, and then whenever it ends, how many months it'll be at that point. I kind of just think it's important just to remember what we went through, and then use that to be better going forward, so that
Right.
we're not just like taking everything for granted. Because like thousands of people have lost their lives, unfortunately, and like the whole year in general has been a tragic year. So, we have to kind of just use this to be better going forward overall, I think, but I don't think we're ever going to have like exactly the same way. We just have to find a new way to make it normal going forward.
No, you're right. And when you go to the grocery store and you see a year from now, and there is a vaccine, hopefully, and you see 40 to 50% of that grocery store wearing masks, you're not going to think twice about it. Where, a year ago, before this pandemic hit, you would have thought everyone was crazy wearing a mask. But I think that's a little thing that will definitely happen, that people will just not want to even take that risk anymore. And they'll want to protect themselves from the flu or the common cold or the coronavirus, obviously. And that would be a big change in our society, I think.